This week on The Travel Show.
Castles in lockdown.
He's walking like a man who's walked a very long time.
One of New York's messiest sandwiches.
You can expect favor. You can expect that the food will be made with love. And you can expect a little sass, because that's me.
Social distancing lessons from medieval Italy.
And the ups and downs of Scotland's wild camping surge.
This week, I'm in Scotland, a country famous for its hundreds of incredible castles. It's only the second time I've been here, but it's a place that's close to my heart.
I'm Canadian, and my name is Mike Corey, but my middle name is MacLeod, and that's a Scottish name, and that's what's brought us here today.
I'm beginning my journey in Skye, Scotland's second largest island. This is Dunvegan Castle, the oldest inhabited castle in the country, and for the past 800 years, the ancestral home of the MacLeod clan.
Hugh,
Nice to meet you, Mike.
excited to be here.
Welcome to Dunvegan Castle. We're closed due to COVID, so no problem with the mask, we'll keep a distance. Would you like to come inside?
Yeah, great.
Fantastic, come on in.
My middle name is MacLeod, not MacLeod. They cut the A at some point.
There's many different spellings of the name MacLeod, but basically welcome home, because this is where it all started. We've been holding fast, that's the bull, which is the family motto. We've been going through clan battles, famine, and hopefully we're going to manage to kind of survive the COVID-19 pandemic as well. So
I think
come on,
we
this
will.
Even by historical standards, Dunvegan has faced a difficult year. It has remained closed to visitors since the coronavirus lockdown began back in March.
We've managed now to open just the gardens and the gift shop in the car park, but it's very much a partial reopening, so the castle's still closed. We might trial opening for guided tours of no more than 25 people, but the mechanics of putting that in place is quite difficult, and actually the economics, it's not that viable really from a business point of view.
The loss of revenue has impacted ongoing restoration work.
So, Mike, welcome to the Fairy Tower, which is a slightly less plush interior than the ones you've just visited downstairs.
And still under repair.
Yes, we've only managed to restore half the castle so far in the last 10 or 11 years. That's only the areas open to the public, so this is the kind of reality behind the scenes. I mean, in the UK, privately owned heritage has got a 1.4 billion backlog of repairs. 58 million of that is in Scotland, and in a Dunvegan context in the estate, we've got a little bit, I think it's 2.5 million of outstanding repairs, some of which are urgent, some which aren't, but unfortunately the pandemic is absolutely going to torpedo our restoration budgets.
Right. And if you can't get that money, what consequences does it have for Dunvegan?
Well, in an exposed, unforgiving climate like Skye's, there's going to be more repairs, obviously, in a place like this. But some really important jobs, sadly, we just won't. If we don't have the money, we don't have the money. They can't proceed.
And Dunvegan is far from the only place yet to fully reopen. The National Trust of Scotland manages 80 visited properties, almost 90% of which are now open again in some shape or form. But you won't be able to see inside some of their most famous historic buildings until 2021, including Culzean Castle in Ayrshire.
Each one is unique, so they have a very different layout, they're very different in size. So Burns Cottage in Alloway is a simple 4-roomed cottage with one way in and one way out, so that's much easier to manage. So things like that have been really, really important to think about how visitors access and enjoy the spaces.
Despite a fundraising drive over the summer, the Trust faces a £30 million shortfall. They've recently announced 200 job losses, a grim set of circumstances that spurred one Trust worker to mount his own charity event.
I'm here on the grounds of Haddo House in Aberdeenshire, where there is an excited group of people, even though the building is still closed. We're here to greet Eduardo Bedin, a local historian and archaeologist who actually works here. So Eduardo's been walking for, give or take, 500 miles across the entirety of the country. And in a few minutes, he'll be rounding this corner behind us.
This is Eduardo, and this is the goodbye team party. This is Crater Castle, day 1 of our adventure. We will see in 26 days where we're gonna be.
Eduardo stopped off at nearly 24 historical properties on his route. His goal was to raise money for the Trust's Save Our Scotland campaign and to highlight the uncertain situation of heritage workers like himself.
And there he is, with a smile on his face. Eduardo. He's walking like a man who's walked a very long time. And the people are applauding. Woo! Woo! Intense.
It is. I was crying, but you couldn't see it. And I love Scotland and I love UK so much. And I was dreaming to have a bagpiper to welcome me back at Haddo. And when he was playing Scotland the Brave, I just felt back home and I was proud to be part of this country and part of this organization.
Coronavirus has had a major impact on Scotland's heritage properties, affecting their upkeep and the people who look after them. But Eduardo remains optimistic.
These are centers of their communities. These buildings were here before the National Trust existed, and they will be here after the National Trust may be gone one day. And we just keep hoping for better days to come, and they will come back. Good days. It's just a matter of time.
Everyone here is still congratulating Eduardo in Aberdeenshire, but us, we're off to Tuscany in Italy, where the coronavirus lockdown has caused the revival of an odd medieval practice, one that had social distancing nailed centuries before we even coined the term.
Babe is from ancient Latin and it means like wow, like a very magnificent, a very beautiful restaurant. So yeah, we like the word babae. We decided to start this restaurant in 2019 in June, and we are 3 friends, and this was a new experience for us. We found it inside the restaurant, so we decided to not open the restaurant, but just the Buchetta del Vino.
Dal 1630 al 1633 a Firenze c'è stata la peste che ha causato un sacco di morti, un sacco di danni. In quel periodo le buchette del vino sono state una risorsa molto importante per la città perché permettevano la vendita sia del vino ma anche di altri cibi in modo anticontagio, perché non c'era contatto e veniva rispettato quello che oggi chiamiamo il distanziamento sociale.
We start with the selling wine and then cocktail, not only wine but food as well. So we decided to do pizza because we are very good with the schiacciata, focaccia and pizza. When we started with the first order in pizza, we arrived here and we saw that the buchetta is too little for pizza. So we cannot do it with the buchetta. And yeah, that was fun.
In questa strada ci sono almeno 6 buchette del vino. ma pensate che in tutta la città di Firenze ne abbiamo trovate più di 180. È un numero incredibile e la nostra associazione, che è nata nel 2016, all'inizio, quando ha cominciato a fare questo censimento, pensava che fossero un centinaio, non di più.
It explodes in 1 month, and people come and ask. They call us. The Buchetta is open. Where we can come, we can eat, we can drink. What we can do. Maybe the lockdown and the post-lockdown is important for the local people to know about the story, the history of Florence, the Buchetta, and give some happiness to the local people.
Those were the wine windows of Tuscany. But don't go anywhere, we've got some great stuff coming up.
How Black Lives Matter is changing the fortunes of some New York restaurants.
If I don't get you with the first bite, I might as well pack this whole thing up.
And how to camp in the wild without annoying the locals.
This spot here is not near any roads, not near any buildings, it's not on farmland. This is me, my tent, and this. That's how I like it. So don't go away. Next, it's been a summer of unrest in the United States. The Black Lives Matter protests, which started in Wisconsin, have spread across the nation and also spread across the entire world. It's meant that issues like social injustice and economic inequality have been at the forefront of our minds. And for some Black-owned restaurants in America, it's meant an unexpected surge in business.
New York, one of the most diverse cities in the world, and one place where the Black Lives Matter movement has really left its mark.
So the huge yellow letters that are right behind me, they're one of 7 murals that are painted throughout the city, and it's truly just a symbol of how strongly people feel about the movement.
Those protests were sparked in May, following the death of George Floyd in police custody in Minneapolis. Anti-racism demonstrators took to the streets in cities across the United States, and then in several other countries around the world.
But aside from just the protests, consumers are also showing their support with their wallets, with Black-owned restaurants having an uptick in demand.
In fact, the National Black Chamber of Commerce says 3/4 of the businesses it spoke to noticed a boost in sales following the protests. Businesses like Sylvia's Restaurant, famous for its soul food. We're talking short ribs, greens, and potato salad. It was founded nearly 60 years ago by this woman, Sylvia Woods, and is now run by her children and grandchildren.
One thing I can say about our staff family, they have been very affected by what's going on. And we're sensitive to that because we're affected as a family and as a business.
Business has been booming ever since the protests, but it really peaked on Juneteenth, the holiday that celebrates the official end of slavery in the U.S.
Juneteenth was one of our biggest sales day. That weekend was incredible. We were busy. And that sentiment has been echoed by other Black-owned businesses in the community.
This is my first time back in a few months, and it's just completely different, you know, like places I would go and eat after work or grab brunch on the weekends, it's just, the economy has crumbled. And when you're talking about Black-owned businesses, especially, they've always, you know, faced uphill battles. I see a lot more people, you know, uniting, a lot more people, you know, wanting to support Black-owned businesses and not just African Americans, you know.
Sylvia's isn't the only Black-owned restaurant that's seen an uptick in demand since this summer's protests, and that's partly because of an app that was developed right here in Brooklyn. Anthony and his wife Janique met in 2016. As a new couple, new to Brooklyn, Anthony said he found it hard to find a restaurant that was Black-owned.
it was a need for it. So that was really like a real inspiration, and we wanted to support people of color, especially in Brooklyn, in gentrified areas. So it's really hard to find these businesses, and we're just another tool that helps fulfill that need.
Eat Okra has seen record numbers of downloads in recent months, but other lists and directories of Black-owned restaurants have also been making waves in cities across the U.S., as well as in foodie destinations like London and Paris.
People started paying attention to what was really happening in the black community.
So I think it's time I check this app out for myself, and with a little help from Anthony, I'm heading back to Harlem, where I'm hoping to try some of New York's famous street food.
Enjoy. Okay. Thank you so much. You see this crisp?
I am all about this deep-fried shrimp po' boy. The aioli makes it a little messy, but it's well worth the indignity.
You can expect favor. You can expect that the food will be made with love. And you can expect a little sass, because that's me. And I often tell people that if I don't get you with the first bite, I might as well pack this whole thing up and just take my ass home.
Tammy has been running her food truck for over 4 years and is well known by her community. They call her the seafood lady, for obvious reasons.
Black Lives Matter has always been an issue for me. I've been protesting my whole life. Ain't nothing new. The only thing new is that we have a lot of young people and non-black people whom are supporting this movement. The Harlem community and throughout the boroughs, they support Harlem Seafood Soul. They know that I'm bringing love through that window, and they show me love, whether I'm in Brooklyn, whether I'm in the Bronx, Queens, it doesn't matter. And especially here in Harlem, this is my community. We just want this community that I love to know that I care, I see you, I'm in this with you.
And to end this week, we return to the Isle of Skye, home to some of Scotland's most spectacular scenery, and where I'm setting up camp for the night.
I really think this is what camping should be. We walked about 30 minutes from the road, hopped over some rocks, and here we are, by ourselves right now.
The laws around camping in Scotland are much more relaxed than the rest of the UK. You can pitch your tent in most parts of the countryside, with a few key rules and exceptions. This summer, as the country emerged from lockdown, residents reported a big increase in the number of people coming here to camp. But that's caused problems.
So this is Torrin Pools. It's where the water runs down from the Red Coolin. Lots of people come here to camp. There's a distinction to be made between the responsible wild campers and what are now being termed the dirty campers. I spoke to the crofters day before yesterday who have their animals in this area, and they said that they're seeing their working dogs rolling in human feces, litter, fires that have been lit, and then the ground is left scorched. Just terrible that people feel that they can behave in that manner in a public place.
And it's an issue affecting communities all over the country, with beauty spots blighted by abandoned tents, burnt-out barbecues, and waste. Even the Queen's been affected. Rangers at her Balmoral estate posted these pictures on Twitter.
Some people are obviously desperate. They've come out of lockdown, they've been confined for months, and they feel the need just to let go and come and enjoy perhaps a wild area, but they don't know how to treat it. Other people just feel entitled.
Over the summer, the charity Keep Scotland Beautiful have run a campaign aimed at reducing lockdown litter.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. I have a little candy wrap in my pocket, I throw it over my shoulder, it's a small piece of trash. Is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah, sure. No one's looking, Mike, as well. Why do we all make such a big fuss about it? Well, it was just really interesting. I was driving here today. I actually saw a cow who was eating a plastic bag. Now, we don't need to be animal experts to know that, animals eating plastic is not a good idea. The other really important thing to remember, particularly if you're inland, is that fundamentally those little bits of plastic will always make their way into the watercourse, and that watercourse always ends up in the sea.
So then how do you be a wild camper and not a dirty camper?
There's fantastic information out there. Nature.Scot, who fundamentally look after the Scottish Outdoor Access Code. Amazing amount of information, but it's such an important part of when you're going wild camping, how to behave in the outdoors.
Tonight, I'm going to follow 3 golden rules laid out in the Outdoor Access Code. Number 1, camp in an appropriate area.
I picked this spot specifically for the view, obviously, but also because this spot here is not near any roads, not near any buildings, it's not on farmland, it's just me, my tent, and this. That's how I like it. Another risk campers face out here is starting a wildfire, something I definitely don't want to do. So I have my camping stove here, much safer than an open fire, and I've got a hopefully delicious meal.
As the light dims and the temperature dips, the crew leave me alone for the night.
And there goes the rest of the team. I gotta say I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm mostly excited. This is why I travel, and this is why I love camping. These intimate moments with Mother Earth.
If you can hear the rain, it's been going on and off all night long. I thought I heard something earlier. I'm not sure, but there was a scruffle in the bushes that was suspicious. But whatever it was, if there was anything, is now long gone. Good morning.
I slept so well last night. And I could spend all day here, but we've got to keep going. Next is the most important part of this whole experience, which is coffee. No, it's making sure we don't leave a trace. So I'm going to find my tent pegs that have been lost in the bog, as well as make sure I've picked up all my pieces of trash. But before we do all that, I've got an important business meeting to attend to over in the bushes, if you know what I mean. So, excuse me. Well, that's all for this week. But coming up next week,
we'll be taking a look at some of our favorite adventures in Turkey, including the time I went there to visit an underwater dive site with a difference.
It is definitely beautiful out here, but do you know what else is quite beautiful? A hot shower. So before we get going, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at BBC Travel, basically everywhere. And for me, Mike, Corey, and the rest of the Travel Show team here in the beautiful Scottish Highlands, it's goodbye.